The Known World, a short fiction. Shoulder room being in short supply in the known world, where books congregate in their own space and customers are squeezed between the covers. My right shoulder met another customer's left. We turned and who do I see but Purple Pauline. It had probably been 3 years, but it's hard to judge years in the known world. The known world isn't very big. That means the unknown world is huge, and in that, not a little unsettling. Yet the known world has a downstairs, just as there is a downstairs below the street level of our minds. Despite not being very big, what we know of the known world fills many volumes, upstairs and down, and the bookstore of that name on Main Road is accordingly replete. One fears that new stock is arriving every day. Last time I had seen Purple Pauline, she had stolen my bicycle and disappeared with a plasterer from Coburg named Darren. More to the point, I had lent her my sentimental copy of The Scorpion's Nest by Sigourney Truscott and had never seen it again. Our setting, the known world, was fortuitous, and it gave me the occasion to call in the loan. "Purple Pauline," I say. "How you been?" She gives me a similar greeting in reply, smiles. She is as purple as you please. She's wearing a nice purple frock with purple shoes. "I'm looking for a copy of The Scorpion's Nest," I said, explaining my motions. "I'd like to read it again. I think I loaned my copy to you." "You did," she said forthrightly. "I haven't finished reading it yet. As I say, time slips away in the known world. You can walk in one Saturday afternoon and when you walk out it's 1865. I'm also open to the idea that some books are especially chewy, like beef jerky, and it might take a few years to get through one. But The Scorpion's Nest isn't Finnegan's Wake. It's an easy, sauntering tale of adultery in Venice. "Do you read books twice?" she asked. "Some." "Life is too short to read books twice," she ventured. "I can't stand reading books twice." And, I thought, you take your time reading them once. But I liked Purple Pauline, and afterwards we went for coffee. "How are things with Darren? Are you still with Darren? Is it Darren?" No, she said. "I had to get the police to Darren, but I don't want to talk about Darren." "Fair enough," I conceded. "How can you read a book twice?" she wanted to know. Did I really want to read Scorpion's Nest again, or was I just calling in the loan? It was the latter, obviously, but I continued. "It's easy," I explained. "You sit down, open it up to the first page and start again." "But you know what's going to happen," she objected. "There's no surprise." "No, even in a story I've read before I can be surprised," I insisted. I related the case of an Agatha Christie where I had been genuinely surprised by the identity of the killer, twice. "A book you've read before is a known world," she insisted. "There's no discovery." I had in the past always imagined what she might look like in red or black, and I found myself doing it again. "But must we sail off the charts to where monsters be?" I replied, "every time we set out on a journey? Sometimes I might like to travel to Istanbul or Prague and visit old friends, rather than trek into the dark Congo." "Put it this way," she said. "How many books are there in the known world?" "Ample," said I, if she meant the bookshop on Main Road, and especially if she included the downstairs. "If you started reading them, you could never get through them," she went on. "Not in a single lifetime. Who's got time to read books twice? I like to present myself as unbothered by time." "You can always go back," she quoted from somewhere, "but you can't go back all the way. Sometimes the second taste is better than the initial thrill," I felt. The novel, I know, has the lure of novelty, but a good book is full of jots and tittles and rewards a second coming. I reminded her of how we used to go to Sergio's for lasagna week after week. She had bought a copy of Carlton Longmire's Herald of the Grey Dawn. "You see," she said, "never read it. I'm looking forward to reading it. I have no idea what happens. That's why I read it, to find out things I didn't know already." "Spoiler alert," I said. "She dies in the end." It was hardly a spoiler. There was a picture of the heroine's grave on the front cover. "Thanks," she said. Now, by her reasoning, she didn't need to read it at all. There was nothing she didn't know already. "There are some memories I like remembering and enjoy revisiting," I idled. "I don't have many of those," she said. "I like to move on." But she was as purple as you please still, and saw no reason to move on from her colour scheme. There is the question of how far the known world, I don't mean the bookshop on Main Road, extends. One obvious limitation, for example, is that one person can never know what it is to be another person. Who knows what it's like to be Purple Pauline? Only Purple Pauline. I'm sure there's a book about that. It is a simple truism, of course, that life is brief and books are plentiful, but the same is true of experiences in general. There is the thirst for new ones, but there is also rekindling the best of them, and they come around with a splendid serendipity, like shoulder bumping into old acquaintances in the known world, by which I mean the bookshop on Main Road. There are some people who never look back, though. I have shoulder-bumped old acquaintances in stores, the known world and others, and the old acquaintance looks at me like a rank stranger, embarrassed as if I'm a second-hand copy of All the Green Year, a book they never wanted to ever see again. But the fact Purple Pauline is still purple and still pleasant tells me she's not transient. "It's a pity you haven't finished Scorpion's Nest," I went on. "There's a twist at the end. I'd be interested to hear what you think happened." "Oh, it's one of those sorts of books, is it?" she said. "Namely, unresolved." I explained that when I first read it and reached the final sentence, I sat there for a good hour asking myself, what happened? Some books end in question marks rather than full stops, and some end in an ellipsis, to be continued. On the same theme, I ventured that the best things in life don't have neat conclusions. There was the question, for example, of my bicycle. I was going to leave that dangling and implicit. "Have you been to the downstairs of the known world?" she asked. "Too often," I said. I didn't know if she meant the bookshop on Main Road or the known world at large, but the answer was the same. Too often. At that point I thought I'd resort to snobbery. A good bookshop will bring out the snob in me. She was intimating that perhaps there was an unknown world of titles I was missing below the street level of my attention. "Books that bear reading twice are what you call classics," I said. "Everything else is light fiction." "When I reach the end of a story," she said, "it's over. I don't hang around." And she added, "The second time is never the same." We were having coffee. There was a light nostalgia in our setting. "I don't know," I said, less pessimistic. "It can be even better than the first time." "No," she said firmly. After Volume 1, she'd consider a Volume 2, but she's not going back to Volume 1. My view was, need book reading be a churn of disposable thrills? And the broader question, is the known world a dusty pile of ephemera or a treasury of contemplative gems caught in a defiant time shift against a trivial era? "There are things you miss the first time," I assured her. "So you had to call the police on Darren," I was thinking. "That's what you get for running off with a plasterer from Coburg." She was being very purple. "I've never found a book I wanted to read twice," she said, quite sour about it. "You just haven't found the right book," I suggested. Please, she said, as if she wasn't widely read. On the matter of time, it is also a truism that a book has its own inner chronology, and in a good book, we can be lost in it, as we say. In fact, I said, there are some people who find just one book and they read it over and over for the rest of their lives. That can happen. I moved my snobbery up a notch. Epics, I said. I've known my share of epics, she assured me. I could have referenced Proust and being lost in remembrance of things past for the rest of your life, but she would have shivered like a purple jelly. Instead, I encouraged her. There is one book, Pauline, one book that will have everything you've ever wanted in a book, and you'll want to read it over and over. Browsing is arousing, she said, as purple as ever. And that was our impasse. Why, though, had she left Scorpion's Nest unfinished? It's racing in places and the plot moves with sly intrigues. She was never going to finish it, and she was never going to give it back. There are, I insist, in the known world, the bookshop on Main Road, and more generally, stories worth knowing again and again, books worth a second reading, and also timeless tomes that can never be exhausted and that you keep reading until death do you part. We told each other it had been a happy shoulder bump, and despite the spoiler, she said Carlton Longmire's Herald of the Grey Dawn was exactly her current mood. I imagined her in red or black. She walked back to her car. I walked back past the known world on Main Road, where engaging volumes literally push their way out the front door onto the street, and where there's a subtext downstairs. And I pointed out to Purple Pauline that I was on foot. Someone had stolen my bicycle.